So let's clear this up. What does RAM actually do? Imagine your office is your computer and your desk is the RAM and your hard drive is the filing cabinet. Instead of running back and forth to get a file you're working on, you'll have everything laid out on your desk using the RAM. So if you have applications or web browsers open, you're actively using your RAM, and if your RAM is to the max, you'll start to put stuff back in your hard drive and run back and forth in the hypothetical to the filing cabinet to work at your desk. So it's not really efficient. So no, RAM isn't where you save everything. That's the hard drive, the filing cabinet. RAM is where you work on things. So it might not be that your office is too small or your filing cabinet is too small. You just need a bigger desk to run things. So how much RAM do you actually need? If you're just browsing the internet, watching shows, or just doing light word processing, you probably can get away with 8 gigs. If you're doing a little heavier stuff, video editing, 16 gigs will probably get you by. If you're gaming or using a lot of apps at once or 3D modeling, 32 gigs will probably do the job. Anything more than that, let's say if you're in the 64 to 128 gigs, you might not need it all. So it's not necessarily more RAM will get you farther. You might just be spending money on stuff you're not going to use. Single versus dual or quad channel. 1 stick of RAM works, but 2 is better. Imagine 1 stick of RAM is like a single lane road. Data flows one way, back and forth slowly. 2 is better. 4 is an interstate highway. A lot of speed and a lot faster. You don't need more sticks for capacity. You need matching sticks for speed. Always buy your RAM in pairs if your motherboard supports it. If you don't, you mismatch your RAM, it can cancel out dual channel systems and slow your system down completely. Are you wondering when it's time to upgrade your RAM? If you have a few tabs open or you're running a couple applications at the same time and your system slows down, it might be time to check. If you're running Windows, you can check Task Manager or Activity Monitor for Mac. If your memory is consistently above 80 to 90%, it's probably time to upgrade. Also, if you're moving heavy files like media or edits or renderings and you're using a bunch of your processing power, it might be time to upgrade. The fix is simple: upgrade your RAM and feel the difference. Can you mix and match your RAM sticks? Brands? Yes, but it's not ideal. When you boot your system up, it's going to set itself to the lowest settings or memory available. So if you have 1.8 and 1.16, it's probably going to go down to 2 8 sticks. When you mix RAM, your system defaults to the slowest speed and the loosest timings of all sticks. That can reduce performance and in some cases cause instability. Dual channel setups might not work properly if they're mismatched pairs. So if you can, ideally buy in pairs. Mixing your RAM sticks is a short-term fix, not a long-term strategy for success. RAM and integrated graphics. What you don't know might hurt you. Integrated graphics don't have their own memory, so it's going to take from your RAM for it to work. So if your GPU needs 2 gigs of RAM, it's going to take, and you have 8, it's going to take that away, and it's going to leave you with 6 gigs of RAM to work all your applications. The fix, again, dual channel setups. That way you can offload some of your RAM to your GPU and not worry about a performance crash. That'll lead to smoother games, edits, and work. If you can't afford to upgrade to a dedicated graphics card yet, a RAM upgrade might be a better, cheaper solution just to get you by. ECC versus non-ECC RAM. What's the difference? Dude, stop, bro. ECC stands for error correcting code, and it's essential any kind of memory issues or data corruption before it's widespread. That's why it's typically used in servers, home labs, work systems, and mission critical situations. Non-ECC RAM is what most home PCs and gaming setups use because if it drops a few frames, not that big of a deal. But what's the catch? An ECC RAM has to have the correct motherboard and CPU to process it. You can't just plug and play anywhere. If you're going to build a home server or home NAS, ECC might be the way to go. What's the compatibility of your PC before you buy the RAM? Is your motherboard going to be DDR3, DDR4, or DDR5? Because you can't mix and match these. What's your computer's max speed and capacity? It won't use RAM that it won't support. Third, how many RAM slots do you have? Are you going to run them all in dual channel? Fourth, what's the right form-fitting factor? DIMM or SO-DIMM? Laptops use SO-DIMM, so they won't be able to work on your PC. And finally, check for any height clearances because you might have an issue with other parts of your PC hitting the RAM. RAM plays a huge part in your PC's overall performance. Just a little bit of a correction or a further thought process before buying and installing can probably get you along a lot of ways. Maybe you should buy a bit bigger, that way you have room to grow into it, but not too big where you're wasting your money. RAM is an important decision in your PC build. Focus on reliability and capacity. It'll go a long way. If you want performance that's going to last, skip the hype, buy smart,